time so that we can give people a lot of time to ask questions. So I have a short presentation I think that I want to do. And if you can turn on your video as well, please turn it on so that I'm not seeing only myself and I know that you're following if it's convenient for you. If it's not, it's still fine. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you for everyone who have popped in the chat where they're joining from. Shout out to Victory. Shout out to Fidos. Shout out to Chidera. Tina from Nottingham, Tracy from Hereford, Fumilayo from Kent. Shout out to all of you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Let me start sharing my slide. Okay. Just to guide us on what we are doing today. So. Okay, thank you for joining me. Can you see my slide? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my slide. Good. My name is Sule Sojetule. I know a lot of you would have seen my video from many channels, from WhatsApp groups or Instagram or TikTok. Also brought you here. So I am well aware that you know who I am. I work as a communications officer in the UK. I came into the UK as a student in 2021, and since then I've been able to transition into communications. I've so far gotten 2 sponsorships in communications. I first got one sponsorship and then I lost my job, and then I got another sponsorship in comms, and I currently work as a communications officer. So tonight we are going to be discussing how to find and how to land sponsorships as a communications or public relations personnel in the UK. I know that this is not one popular field amongst us immigrants. We are likely to gravitate towards maybe fields that are very loud, that you have a lot of loud voices in. Say tech, a lot of people are talking about it. Care, a lot of people are talking about it. So we are likely more to gravitate into that field than some fields that are not well known. And that is where comms PR falls into. Before I got a sponsorship in comms, I've not met anybody, any immigrants that have landed sponsorship in it. And so personally, I've made it an assignment myself to introduce a lot of immigrants to say, okay, if you have these skills, this field exists. Can you please mute your audio? Thank you. To say this field exists and you should consider looking into that direction if you have skills in this field. So let's move on. Understanding the landscape, I understand that a lot of us are already working in the field as communications officer before we moved into the UK. I'm also aware that a lot of people have not been working in the field yet, so you might be confused as to what comms PR means when we talk about comms PR in the UK. So what does a communications or public relations officer do? If you see, I'm merging the two together because in the UK, the line is kind of blurred between the both field. So that's why I'm merging the both together. The SOC code for communications PR officer when you're trying to get sponsorship is 2493. So what exactly does it entail? Now, a communications officer or public relations officer, they help to shape, protect, and promote an organization's image, their reputation, their messaging across internal and external audience and channels. So it means that you can be an external communications officer and you can also be an internal communications officer. For external communications, you speak with the external audience, stakeholders of the company or the organization. And for internal, you work to disseminate message and build relationships and do your work within the organization, internal stakeholders, staffs, employees, other stakeholders that have vested interest in the organization. So what are some of the jobs that you're going to be doing? You are going to be doing like content creation. You can say, oh, am I social media? But in 2025 and the digital age, the work has been blurred a lot, that you find yourself also doing the job of a social media person. It's not like you're a full-time social media officer, but if you find yourself in an organization where there's no designated social media officer, then you have to do the job of a social media officer. In places where you now find yourself that you have a social media officer, you can create the content, create the idea and all, and give it to the social media officer to like tailor it and use the expertise to make it fit for social media. But to gain advantage in the UK, it's better you have all those skills together. It's better you have all those rounded skills to position yourself better. So your job will include writing press releases, social media posts, web copy, newsletters, and campaign materials. Your job will also include pitching stories to journalists, responding to media inquiries, drafting statements, and managing press coverage. Your job would also include internal communications. In big organizations, you have a whole team for internal communications. But in small organizations, you have to do the job of an internal communicator as well. They just hire like communications portfolio and expect you to take care of that as well. So having all-rounded skill it's very, very important, so that you can always tailor your skills from one place to another and stand out. So for internal communications officer, you create staff updates, intranet content, briefing, internal campaign, internal newsletters, like staff conferences and all of that. And then another thing you'll be expected to do is to manage stakeholders. Who are stakeholders? They are people that have vested interest in the organization. Either the organization affects them or they affect the organization. So you have to work with your team, your partner, your communities, and service users to communicate key messages. And then you're also expected to do campaign planning, like lead communications campaign from the idea inception to delivery implementation. And then most times organizations often face crisis. There are periods where they are under scrutiny or they are receiving backlash online, especially with the advent of social media. It's very easy for everybody to say, oh, let's cancel this brand. So your job will be to draft responses, monitor issue, and manage sensitive situations. And then digital communications is also a skill you need to have, including website update, WordPress, any additional thing you can add. And then brand management. Here, any design tool that you can learn, Canva, Adobe Premiere Pro, it will give you an added advantage. So for brand management, it also includes you using your expertise to analyze the visual identity of the organization and make sure that it is consistent across all platforms. So let's move on to UK communications PR rules in the UK that sponsor, right? So since I've been talking, I've been using communications and PR a lot because they are all together in the UK. So the rules that sponsor include communications officer, PR officer, digital comms, internal communications, copywriter, media officer. These roles they sponsor. Social media manager, so they sponsor. And then the sectors that sponsor include the NHS, it includes councils, it includes universities, charities, tech companies, some consultancy organizations, private firms, startups, social enterprise. Every industry particularly need a communications officer, so that a lot of time you see that your job is needed almost everywhere. Okay, so let's move on to how to get your profile to be sponsor ready. Okay, so I have been seeing the conversation on the group, and I see how frustrated a lot of us are when it comes to getting a job, particularly in communications and PR in the UK. And I can relate with those frustrations. So let's tackle some of the things that you guys raised there, from your CV to interview and a lot. So to get your profile to be sponsorship ready, also land a job, because I also understand that some people are just looking for a job, you don't need a sponsorship as well. To make your profile employable or sponsorship ready, you need to align your CV with UK style achievements. It might be that you've done communications in your home country, but there are certain things that are very, very much needed in the UK. There are tools that are needed, that are used in the UK. There are specific skills that I must have in the UK. So you need to tailor your CV to those, while also incorporating your achievements that you've done from the past. So a lot of us have done so many work. Now you need to learn how to add these metrics to what you do. Because one key thing about being a communications officer is that the work that you do, you always have the evidence of the work that you do. After every campaign, you have like analytics to show if the work performed well or if it didn't perform well. So you have this analytics, this insights, this data with you. So make use of that data to improve your profile, make use of that data to make your CV what it needs to be. So if you led a campaign that led to a 30% increase in engagement or led to a 30% increase in sales or something, you need to make it visible on your CV. So add metrics. Your CV is not just job description. If you've attended previous sessions that we've had on CV, I hammer this a lot. Your CV is not just about job description, it's about the achievements, right? It's about the achievement. What did you do when you landed that role? When you were on that role, you spent 5 years on that role. What did you do? So you need to be able to demonstrate that in your CV. Also, the job of a communications PR professional is always very visible. Like whatever you do is something that is visible. So you need to be able to develop like a portfolio for yourself of your achievements and the work and everything that you've done. So except if you are, say, an internal communications professional, that's when you maybe will not be able to make reference to an intranet post that you made. But your newsletters is also visible. Like you can download a copy of that newsletter as you're working. So you can build a portfolio, and when you are making an application and they say that like a portfolio is needed or will give you an added advantage, feel free to add that, the campaigns you've done, the newsletters, the press releases, the number of media channels that took that story. If they're high profile, it's even better. The analytics you got from that campaign, make sure you make use of that to create a portfolio. And then you need to highlight certain skills that are needed in the UK. In the UK, I always advise that number one, brand yourself as a storyteller. Number two, brand yourself as a data-driven communications professional. Everybody needs a communications professional that is being driven by data. You do your research, get the data, plan the campaign. During the campaign, get the data. After the campaign, get the data, and use that to inform your next campaign. So if you brand yourself as a data-driven communications professional, UK employers are going to love you. And if you brand yourself as a storyteller, they are going to love you, because we are now done from the era of just pasting plastic messages. People want messages that resonate with them, and there's no how you can do that rather than incorporating like personal stories into the kind of work that you do, putting that human element, that emotional element into your brand. So it's very, very essential if you perfect how to do it. Then other skills that are needed is stakeholder management. The organizations that they work with a lot of stakeholders, there are different levels of people that they work with and have to be accountable to. So try to also know how to manage stakeholders. How do you communicate with them? When stakeholders have different interests on a particular project, how do you harmonize all those interests, all those expectations to create a project, a campaign that works for everyone? Those are questions you should be asking yourself. Also, having the skills of a digital content creator or digital content professional is essential. Like I said, we are no longer in 2001 when it was newspapers and print. We are now in the era of social media. So having that extra social media skills, although it is not supposed to be your job, but in 2025 it has become your job, and having that extra skill is very, very important. And then I talk about research, which I've mentioned during Data and Insight. To gather that, you need to be able to research. Like, how do you speak to your audience? How do you talk to them? And how do you get feedback? No longer a one-way communication, but a two-way communication, where you send a message and receive response to know if it worked or if it didn't work, or what you need to implement for it to work. And then Basic design also. I know you'll be thinking that this is a lot, but yeah, it's a lot of skills you have to have. Canva, Adobe Premiere Pro, WordPress, any other thing you add is an added advantage. And then crisis comes also is essential to some organizations, not all anyways. Okay, so how to apply, right? It is very important that you have a strategy on how you want to make your application. You can't do a free fall. You can't do anywhere benefice. You can't just say I'm applying. You need a strategy. How do you want to apply? And number one thing I always say is target organizations with sponsor license if you're applying because you need a sponsorship. If you're eyeing a sponsorship, you don't have business applying to an organization that is going to give you the job but will not sponsor you. Most times you even have to make compromises, meaning that sometimes you have to forego higher salaries for organizations that have the license and take lower salaries just to get sponsorship. So what I do is that I sent 10 list of 12 job boards to the group chats. To some of you that joined recently may not be able to see it, but some you'd have seen it yesterday. So for me to get like organizations with sponsor license, I visit these 12 job boards, look at all the jobs that are available there, and then I pick the organization and then go to UKTR-sponsor.co.uk to check if they have the license to sponsor. I don't have a particular website where they post like only jobs with sponsorship. A lot of you are looking for a website like that and say, oh, my work would be limited if I find a website like that. But the thing is that website like that, they don't pull all the jobs into it. Any job that they say that they did not explicitly say we have license to sponsor and we are ready to sponsor you, we are willing to sponsor you, those job boards will not pull it. They will not bring it there. But there are certain organizations that have the license to sponsor. They are not going to spell it out that, oh, we want to sponsor for this role, but they are going to sponsor for the role if you need it. So because of that, I don't just limit myself to like job sponsor job visa websites. So I use like a conglomeration of those 12 job boards to look for employers that have the license to sponsor. So once I see like a job description and I see that I meet this job description and I want to apply for this job, I'm going to go to the job board, pick out the organization name, take it to UKTRsponsor.co.uk, search for it to see if it pops, if they have a license. So the type of license that they have, you are going to see there. Once I say skilled worker license, I go ahead and I apply for the role. So use that. So use that to find the organizations that have the license to sponsor. Then another thing is that when you're starting out, you need to tailor each application to the job description when you start, like build a CV for every job. Although at the moment, I've gotten to the level where I don't build CV for every role because I've been able to like, as throughout the years, as I'm applying for jobs, I'm pulling skills, I'm pulling languages into my CV, that one CV now works for me. But if you're just starting out, you can't have that one CV yet. So it's better that you tailor each application for each role. That will give you more chances of landing like interview. Then as time goes on, to save yourself time, developing one CV is going to help you save a lot of time from multiple CVs and applications. So it means you can cut down your application hours from 2 hours, 3 hours to like 1 hour if you have one CV. So start by tailoring the CV to every job. Then as time goes on, once you see a job description, you feel like this CV is missing from your CV, pull it, bring it in. And as time goes on, you're now going to have like one CV that works for you. Then focus on roles where your international or lived experience is an asset. And this is like what I've been able to use perfectly to land the 2 jobs that gave me sponsorship. There are certain jobs that not everybody can fill the role. And I must also emphasize that the communications field is very competitive because every everybody that did English studies or anything can brand themselves as a communications professional. In fact, even your colleagues in your office can feel like they can even do your job more than you. Like, that's how it is. Like, everybody, so it's kind of very competitive. You get a lot of application. For one job application, you are getting like 500 people submitting job applications. It's very competitive. And for you as an immigrant, you are also competing with like citizens who wouldn't need extra money for them to get the job, like extra money for them to pay for sponsors, COS, and all of that. Like, they don't need to do extra to hire them. So it's a very tough spot that you are in. So you need to use your lived experience or a particular international experience that you have to leverage on it to get the job, right? So what do I mean? There are certain jobs that maybe because you are a woman, you are a Black woman, you are best fit for it because maybe the project is that context. Like, oh, maybe it's a project, a campaign around getting Black women to do this or that. Or it might be that you are an immigrant mother and that campaign is about getting immigrant parents to vaccinate their child, and you're an immigrant mother that worked on One Health project. That's a lived experience that can work for you. It can be that from your home country, you have done one project that is very relatable and very particular to the context of that particular role they want to hire for. Capitalize on those to get yourself the job. That has helped me 2 times now. So that will work because it narrows down the competition for you, right? If this is the context, say you're an international student and they're looking for a communications officer that will speak, like that will do a campaign, or the role is about like communications for international students or for alumni and all. You as an international student, you have lived experience of being an international student. That is your chance to grab the opportunity and use that to get that role. Because what you understand as an international student, you can add that to the context of the campaign and can even do a lot more better. So capitalize on it to land the job. Then when you're writing your cover letter, you need to use the essential and desirable criteria to write the cover letter. One of the early mistakes I was making when I was making my application is that when I'm making application, there's usually what they write about the job and all the things the person is going to be doing. In my head, I didn't know why it made sense that I was using that to write my job. But the moment I knew that the essential and desirable criteria is what I should focus on, my application game changed. So stop using like the job description or what we like about the role. Stop using that to write your job application. Use that to understand the job. But what you should focus on are the essential criteria. The essential criteria are what they want that person to address. If they say press releases, if they say stakeholder management, if they say storytelling, if they say social media, if they say relationship building, focus on that. Use that keyword, use that particular keyword and use it to tailor your application to it. It's very important to use the keyword because especially if you're making NHS application, if they say press release, don't go and use another word. If they say storytelling, don't go and use another word. If they don't use synonyms, use that particular keyword so that when the computer is going to filter at the initial stage, you'll be able to land an interview. So make sure you use that particular keyword that they used in the job description. And also tailoring your application to the STAR method. A lot of us already are aware of the STAR method: situation, task, action, results. So where examples are needed, using the STAR method to quickly structure your example is very, very important. So yeah, situation, the task, the action you took, and the results, and make sure you incorporate metrics into those results, like, oh, by 10%, oh, by 500 people. Make sure those metrics are visible in your results. And then another tip is that you need to apply consistently. Yeah, the field is competitive and you need to make a lot of application. You need to apply to 5, 10, give yourself targets. I usually advocate for an application tracker. It's a game changer. The moment you decide to have an application tracker, the moment you decide to stop doing your application anyhow, you get yourself an application tracker. What do? You go to your job boards, pull out all the applications that align with you, that have the license to sponsor, put them inside, put the job description, the name of the organization, put the salary, put the organization, put all of that, and put key dates when it's going to expire, so that you can now build your time around that application tracker that you have, because you're very busy, you have another job that you're doing, and then you're looking for this job. So you need to say, okay, from this time to this time, I have 2 hours a day, so this is the application I'm going to make. So usually I make my application based on the next deadline, like what deadline is upcoming, then I'll address that, and then wait for, like, when I have another free time again. When I have free time, I can combine like 5 applications, do that 5 applications, cover that deadline. Say from now to next week, the deadlines I have is like 5 applications, so I'll do that and then do my own thing, and then plan again to when I'm going to come on the application. If you are here and you don't have an application tracker, you're wrong. And then let's move on. So interviews. A lot of you talked about how you get interviews, but you don't land the job. You do a lot of interviews, but you don't land the job. Now, before this point, if you don't get interviews at all, your CV and your cover letter is the issue. Yeah, nothing else. Your CV, somebody mentioned it on the group as well. Your CV and your cover letter is the issue. If you're not having any interviews, you need to overhaul, redo, and look for a CV that works for you. Try different method until you find the one that works for you. Also, your CV shouldn't be more than 2 pages. Somebody already pointed out, we've had several sessions on CV already. So understand now that you know like the basic thing that is required from a UK CV. So I'm assuming that. And then once you pass the level of, okay, your application getting rejected at CV stage and you get to interview, you pass CV stage and you get to interview, you are a step there. Congratulations, because they receive around 500 applications, 200 applications per one role, and they shortlist like 7 candidates for one role. So if you get up to interview, it means that for you to get there, you have bypassed like 200 applicants, 500 applicants for you to be there. So you just need to take a step further for you to get the job. So let's talk about certain things that worked for me during interviews. When I started interviewing, I usually like go around, quote what I want to say to the employers, to the interviewers. I usually quote them. And then I discover that when I quote and do all this rehearsal, the moment I get to interview, like everything will just disappear, because all the questions I prep for, once they don't ask that one or they change something a bit, I could just flop. So I decided to use another method to prepare myself for interview. And this method does not include like rehearsing and quoting what I'm going to say. I'm not memorizing and downpouring. No, I'm just going to understand the role very well, so that any question at all that come, I will be able to respond to that question. So my number one technique is that I'm going to do a lot of research about the organization. I'm going to ransack your website, your LinkedIn, your social media. I'm going to do all that research. Learn. My role is comms PR. So I'm going to learn about the last campaign that you did. I'm going to look at your social media. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? Is the branding okay? What kind of videos, posts, messages, carousel do you produce? What kind of tone do you maintain on Instagram versus LinkedIn? What kind of campaign? What matters to you? What is visible? What's working? What's not working? I'm going to know all of that. I'll research the company, the organization, whatever. Then I'm going to also research the interviewers. I'm going to go on your LinkedIn, check out the person, how many years you've done within the organization, what kind of thing do you write. Some of them, from their writing, you can know the kind of PR communications officer that they are and what they prioritize. So you'll be able to know that. And then from there, I'll be able to learn, and chance may just permit me to mention some of those things in interview. Sometimes you can prepare and you won't get a chance to mention those things, but sometimes you prepare and you see the opportunity, you grab it and you mention it. It could be that that person is a sport lover. You can use that for your small talk. You know, it could be that that person is an opera lover. It might be that that person has a dog. These are things, small talk. UK, British people, they enjoy small talk a lot. So learning these things can just come in handy when you need to fill in the gaps to say something. And then the second thing, okay, let me mention that this is important. You can be wondering, oh, so let's why small talk, your dog, your sunshine, you're this important in interview. That's because interview is not just about your skills as well, it's about your fit for the organization, also your fit for the person that is managing the project, like the director or the manager or something. Oh, like this question will come up, can you actually work with this person, the person that is like the orga of that particular project or this thing? So yeah, these things are important. It is not just the skills and what you know, but your fit for the culture of the company, the team that you are going into. So it's important. Then another thing, you need to know the role, like study the role that you're applying for. If the role is a digital communications officer, or if the role is engagement and communications officer, you need to know the role. Know what you think is the challenge of the company at the moment. Based on that, okay, what do you think? What are the things that are likely also going to be your own challenge when you start, right? Say they say you should do alumni communications. There are alumni from different departments. One of your challenges on that role will be, how do I communicate to these alumni that are from all the departments and make sure they are all engaged and they have interest in this thing I want to send to them? That's why being from medicine or humanities, media, or anatomy, despite coming from different departments, how do you make something? So these are some of those things. Some audience have complexities and layers, different stakeholders. Sometimes it could be the company, say funding. It might be that in the nearest future, funding might be a problem for this company and things like that. So learn about the role very well and the challenge that the company is likely going to experience in the future, and the challenge you yourself you are going to experience on that role, say within the 3 months, 6 months upon joining the role. And when I say know the role as well, I mean the essential criteria and the desirable criteria. That is what they are going to use and score you. They'll look at you and compare the essential and desirable criteria. So I always advise that you compare the essential and desirable criteria and put them into like either 2 words or 1 word, right? The skills. Just jot them on a sticky note. If it's long, use one word to 2 words to summarize them so that you can know them. When you know them, you'll be able to incorporate it into your skill, into your interview. One of the first questions they're going to ask you is, what motivated you to apply for this role? In that question, you're going to be talking about your previous work, you're going to talk about your current work, and you're going to talk about why you want to work for the company, interest, why you really want to work for the company. And in answering that question, you need to incorporate the skills that you have that they're looking for. And it's not just saying, I have all the skills that you're looking for, but it's saying, I read in the job description that you are looking for a storyteller. And I am someone who is a storyteller. In a previous campaign that I've done, this is what I achieved with storytelling. If they say they are looking for a press officer, you use that keyword, press officer. If they say they are looking for a crisis communicator, use that keyword. It's not just saying I have all these skills, but it's mentioning those particular skills with your own mouth. And then you need to know yourself. Some people go for interviews and they don't even know what's on their CV, because probably I've given different versions of your CV to different people, and now you're wondering what exactly you told these people. So you need to know, when you make your application, save a copy of your cover letter and also your CV, and know your own self. Know what you told, the version of yourself and the experience you took out of your numerous experience that you gave them. You need to know it. Are we following so far? If you are following, give me a thumbs up and then I'll continue. Good. Thank you very much. So know yourself, know the version of yourself that you gave them. Don't let there be a gap. You told them about this project and you told them you got a 50% increase in engagement, and then when you got to interview, you told them it's 10% now. these are different versions of yourself. So you need to be consistent with your story, because a lot of people, they just forget the version of their CV they gave, and they are confused, and they ask them questions and they don't know what to say, or they are saying another story. You don't want that to be you. And then you need to give examples. When you answer interview questions, you need to give examples as to how you demonstrated that. Oh, I did a social media campaign, but I want to see how you did that. So give me an example of a time that you do it. Sometimes even questions that they ask you that is straightforward. I used to use this example and say, are you a girl? Are you a girl is a yes or no question. Yes. But in a communications interview, you want to give reasons and examples why you are a girl. Oh, I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I'm a black girl. I have braids on. I have earrings. Oh, I have lipstick on. You have to give it. So that's like me breaking down into the smallest example. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that you need to give examples of a particular time where you have done that. Or what social media management tool do you use? Oh, I use Sprout. In fact, I've been using Sprout for the last 3 years. One of my projects that I did, I was able to use Sprout to schedule the campaign and also get insights and data and analysis upon finishing the campaign. You need to give that example. If they say, oh, tell me about a campaign that you did, you need to be able to give them an example of a campaign that you did. And also talking about examples that strongly align with the context you are interviewing for is very, very important. If they are asking that you talk about, say, a campaign that you did, and you are interviewing with a university, for example, the best number one, if it's an external communications role, the best interview that will resonate, number one, must be external communications. Number two, if it's even with students or with that particular context, is even better. So look for an example that align closely. It doesn't mean that you have to manufacture it if you don't have it. If you have it, it's a bonus, it's an extra point. But if you don't, use what you have. But make sure you structure it in the way that the interviewer understands. I also learned recently, like my organization was hiring in the last 4 weeks. 4 weeks ago, we were hiring. I sat in a panel, and sitting at the back end or the receiving end this time, not as an interviewer, but not as an interviewee, but as an interviewer, opened my eyes to a lot of things. Sometimes people give examples and you are lost in the conversations. You don't even know what they are trying to say anymore. And this is because communications and public relations, especially in campaign, has several elements. If you want to do a campaign, you are doing, say, internal campaign and external campaign. You have different elements. You have videos that you're doing. You have social media elements. You have like a traditional mainstream media element. You have newsletters. So sometimes people just want to bring all of this into the conversation, and it can be very distracting if it's not structured well. By the time they finish in the next 8 minutes, you are lost and you don't know what they're talking about, and you don't know what they are saying, and you don't know what they did in that campaign. You just be hearing we without even knowing what they did, and you don't know. At the end of the day, when you don't know, you just call them maybe the lowest point, 1, for even saying something. Whereas people that are structured very well, they are going to score higher. So when you give examples, talk about specific things that you did. Yes, you want to clap for your team. Yes, you don't want to take all the glory, but trust me, interviews is all about you. You are the one that is seated there. You need to take the shine. You need to dominate. You need to sound your own alarm as to the good things that you did. So avoid we. Use I. In places that is necessary, you can say, oh, I am my team. Places that is necessary, but it's all about the bit that you did in that particular campaign. You worked with a lot of people, but what did you do? So make sure you mention what you did and also the results and lessons learned from that particular experience, if there's any. So best way to structure your your examples will be using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. And myself and my mentees from my communications mentorship class, we also developed like a strategy that we use to answer questions that's around campaigns. So we use like the OASIS strategy, like the OASIS framework, to respond to interview questions that has to do with campaign, because situation, task, action, result may not work. So we use SOASIS, meaning the situation, and then OASIS. If anybody's familiar with the OASIS, if you're not familiar, you can just go check it out. So it means the situation, then you talk about the objective, the audience, the strategy, the implementation, and the scoring. By the time you do this and you give like the situation and the background information, just launch into the OASIS, and that way you are able to mention all the elements of the campaign without parabolating, right? When you say the objective, you're able to say, oh, the first thing was to determine the objective of the campaign. The objective of this campaign was to get more students to sign up for lessons or something like that. And then the audience were the students, both part-time students and full-time students. And the strategy I decided to use for this particular campaign is storytelling, telling the stories of why this particular lesson and why this particular class is important. So framing that will help you give like straight answers without you parabolating everywhere, and your interviewers will just miss what you're trying to say. And then interview also go beyond your skills. It's also about your personality. And I learned this when I was seated and interviewing people. When you sit, some people just come into the room and they are there, like they take over the room, like their aura, the way they respond, they take charge. Meanwhile, some people will just come and sit and they're like timid and all. And that's why sometimes these interviews may not be fair to like introverts that maybe naturally they don't like talking, they're just quiet, they're just calm. But I guess it's life sometimes. So that people who are like out there coming, they are bringing their energy and all, they are easily able to capture the interviewer, and then the interviewer is able to like pay attention to them. So that I found out that people who came into the room to charge, brought their vibe, they let their personality shine, they were more likely to capture attention than people that just sit quietly and just respond only to questions asked. They are not starting or stirring any conversations. I even found people, which is something I've also learned, that put like small talks and giggles, some things in while responding to interview questions, right? Serious interview questions. They still find a way to like insert some things, say from a campaign. Oh, I was working with researchers. You know how researchers are. Their work is their baby. Things like that. And then everybody smiles. It lifts the mood in the room. So, yeah, just let your personality shine. There's no one linear personality, right? But whoever you are, even if you're an introvert or you're an extrovert or whatever you are, just let that personality shine. It might be who they're looking for. Don't box yourself and say, okay, let me just read JJJ and leave JJJ. Let your personality, who you are, shine. It might just be who they are looking for. And then the last bit of this is positioning yourself online, because I have received several requests from recruiters. Oh, we have this thing, they won't publish it online, we think you're a best fit for it, are you open to doing this work? And I've received several. If like last week I've received one that I had to decline. So having that online portfolio as a communications professional, it matters. Yes, it doesn't work for everyone, but having that portfolio, it matters. And sometimes when they want to make decisions, when say you make it to the last round and they want to make decisions, sometimes they just go to your LinkedIn to check it out. So optimize your LinkedIn, post content that shows your expertise. You can thought pieces, writing samples, all of that, you can post it. You can also, there's a function on LinkedIn that has worked for me. Before now, I don't used to like get recruiters reaching out to me until I activated that add project function. On that add project, I was able to link all the projects that I've done, give a summary, and then connected the link to that project on organizations I've worked for and all of that. So with that, I started getting like interviewers, coming to my DM to say, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? So it's very important that your LinkedIn is not dormant. Make it active. You can also, if you are not somebody that wants to share thought pieces and all, you can be someone that will share about your coffee in the morning. You can be somebody that can share about experience you learned from your colleague. You can tell stories as well. And then network with hiring managers and connect with other communications professional, because that way, when they see a job and they like it, it appears on your own profile. Okay, let me not talk too much on LinkedIn. So you may be asking, when do I ask for sponsorship? And I'm going to tell you what worked for me, because a lot of things would have worked for other people. So I'm going to be speaking from my experience. So when I apply for a job, I know that I am at a disadvantage because the company will need to spend an extra £5,000 or so to give me a sponsorship. And I am also aware that there will be a lot of people, say people that have British passports, who don't need a sponsorship, and I'm competing with those people. So a company will always want to save money. I am aware. If I am a business, I want to see how I can cut costs. So I understand that. So when I apply for a job, I don't ask interviewers in interview that, so do you offer sponsorship? I don't say that. I wait for you to get through the whole process, come back to me if it's a rejection or if it's an acceptance. By the time you give me that phone call or that email to say, Solis, we're happy to offer you the job, I'm going to say, I need a sponsorship. Are you willing to give me the sponsorship? That's happened twice now, and the answer is always yes. Once I get through to the final stage and they give me the job, they are always willing to give me sponsorship. So I don't want that awkward sponsorship conversation. I don't even want it to be part of the reason. I don't want to remind them that it is part of the reason they should consider if they want to hire me. But if you've hired me and you say, I am the one that is qualified for the job, okay, let's see now. If you will not take extra steps to spend that £5,000 to give me that job, and you say that I'm the best candidate. So don't always like, once they have the license to sponsor and I know, I just allow the natural application, processing, shortlisting, interview, every of the process, I'll just allow you to take place. One place, and you call me and you say, Solis, we have the job for you. I'll then ask for sponsorship. So that is the method that I use. So for others, other things may have worked for you, but this has worked for me. So I'm going to go on then at the end. Just keep your question, write it down so you don't forget, and then we talk about it. Then the last thing I want to say is that I'm not going to be scaring you, but I'm going to tell you that it is not easy. It is not easy to get a job in comms, PR, especially if you need sponsorship. If you don't need sponsorship, it can even be easy. It's easy if you don't need sponsorship. You see a charity that will hire you. You see a university that will hire you. You see NHS that will hire you. But when you need sponsorship, it becomes like even a more difficult conversation. So what I'm going to tell you is that persistence is key. Like, you should be somebody that don't give up on something, right? If you really, really want to get it. A lot of you, I know, are frustrated already. I saw those comments in the group yesterday and I smiled and I said, yes, I can relate with this. Before I lost my sponsorship in in communications, before I lost my sponsorship, I already gained like 3+ years experience in the UK. And when I was making applications to get another job with sponsorship, when my contract ended, I still had to make 80 applications. I got 16 interviews. I attended 15 interviews. And these 15 interviews is not just one stage interview. These are like first and second stage, make presentation, crazy kind of thing. So what I'm trying to say is that with somebody who have had like 3+ years experience in the UK, you think I'll just make one application and it will land the job, but it's not like that. If I show you, I always show people my application tracker. Like if I show you, I have like it's red. Then you see like, okay, interview, yellow, and then you just see accepted. So out of that 82 application and 16 interview, I landed 2 jobs. That's to show you the kind of level and energy of persistence that you need for you not to give up. Remember, you're competing with citizens. You are competing with people who naturally will have like the mastery of English language that you need to communicate and do your work very well and effectively. So you need to look for that employer that will look beyond your accents, look beyond you as a person, and look at your expertise. That's the person that you're looking for. And also the person that you say, okay, you are what, placing that money on and giving you that sponsorship. So if you give up, the whole thing is not like the best candidate. Is what is the candidate that don't give up. If you give up before that company that is looking for you comes, you are not going to ever get the job. So no giving up. Persistence is very key. It is very important. You need all the strategy that you need, but ultimately you need to be able to see that, unfortunately, and not give up. I attended a first stage interview, second stage interview, did presentation. They invited me for third stage interview. In the third stage interview, they didn't even ask me any question. We had like an informal conversation. They gave me a tour of the office complex and everything, and I already pictured myself working there. And they still gave me rejection. When I was waiting for acceptance, I came home, I was like, yes, this is it, this is it, this is the job, excited, picturing myself in the office space already and everything. And they still ended up not giving me the job. I reached back to say, oh, what is it? They wrote good feedback. But I told them, I don't need a good feedback. I want what you think I do not have that you did not give me the job. They still came back with good feedback. Oh, we think you're a great fit, but unfortunately, we have to give the job to someone else. Why? So sometimes there won't be a why for you. I just have to make conclusions that, oh, is it because, maybe it's because of sponsorship, or maybe because of this, because you people can't really tell me why you're not giving me the job. So that's what it means. You can do everything and they won't still give you the job. But you need that persistence, that dedication, that willingness to continue. If not, you're going to stop. If not, you get tired and you will not get the job. So that spirit to keep going, you need it. So we are just going to take questions, and I look forward to answering your questions. So I have Chidera, whose hands is up now. So Chidera, just launch into your question.
Hi, Suez, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So thank you so much for this session. Like, thank you so much. So my question is, so sometimes when you fill in applications, they're going to ask you question like, um, do you have ability to work in the UK? Like, and sometimes you may still have like some years on your visa. Do you say yes or do you say no?
I say yes. So if they say, do you have the right to work in the UK? I say yes. They'll ask you further, what kind of right to work do you have? If you have a student visa, if you have a graduate visa, add it to that application. They'll even ask, do you require sponsorship later? If you need sponsorship later, answer yes. But as after that, I'm not going to be bringing up in any conversation. Okay, I will just wait for me to get the job. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other person have any other question? All right, there's no other hands up, so
Right,
I
I have one
assume,
more question.
okay,
Sorry. So
okay.
in the SOASIS, you said scoring. What does the scoring part mean?
It means results, measurement,
Okay.
measure your campaign after you've done it.
Okay. Then also, can you also share your application tracker, please?
Okay, I'm going to share it, but not now
Okay.
because I promise you, I'm very busy at the moment. If I leave this call now, I have another assignment I have to attend to. So I'm going to definitely share it when I'm more like, yeah, when I'm
Okay.
okay to share it. Yeah, but I'll share it. Yeah. Okay. Victory.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much for for taking out time to take us through the UK communications and PR role. So there's this part when we are applying for example the civil service. There's before the last part, before declaration, there's this part that they say GCS framework. Because I was filling some application 2 days ago and I sat down with it, I read it, although I'm yet to still understand what the GCS framework is after going on Google to check for it. Because they asked a question that I think we need to um write something about the applications we filled earlier for the role. So I just want to know how do we tackle the GCS framework in the technicality aspects when filling for the civil service role for communications?
Yeah, on one of the civil service recruitment processes, they have like success profiles that they use. If you're used to civil service applications, you should have come across a success profile. So those success profile are like what they are looking at, and it's based on the level of the application you want to make. If it's like senior level, if it's executive officer level, if it's higher executive officer level, there are different, same framework but different thing they expect on that framework. And then there's like technical level. So if you want to make your application, just go to that particular framework, that technical or success profiles behaviors, and then use that key element to then tailor your application. For example, in the lower level, say executive officer, what they are looking for can be basic. They can say communicating and influencing. What they are looking for at executive officer level will be basic. But if you look at like higher executive officer level, they need like more advanced thing, but still in communicating and influencing. So it's already written on the civil service web page. You just need to now understand it and use it to, like, apply it to your application. Another thing you can do is use AI. Copy that success profile, take it to ChatGPT, copy the job description, take it to ChatGPT, take your CV, take it to ChatGPT, and then with the question they're asking you, tell ChatGPT to tailor it to the success profile for that particular level that you're applying, or the technical level that you're applying. And then it will be able to like give you something that you can start with, and then you can like address it and tailor it to your particular context.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Margaret.
Hi, Celeste. Thank you very much for this. I'm currently in my second role in public relations. So I started off as a junior account exec, and now I'm an account executive, specialized in tech. However, I noticed that like the salary range for public relations is not, how do I put it? Most agencies, not in-house, they don't want to sponsor, basically, mostly because maybe it's just an extra additional cost or something. And also, I've been looking at council roles, so communication officer roles in city councils. I'm asking this because I know that you work in a council yourself. How do I put my experience, like, I'm struggling with applying for these roles, because I feel like I'm not tailoring it how maybe the government roles would most likely they would want to take, because you can't add your name and everything. So I was wondering if you had any supportive document or whatever on how I can tailor my experience and just understanding how to apply for council roles, because with PR is mostly like LinkedIn and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, Jobs Go Public as well. That's where all the council rules are. So visit Jobs Go Public. You see like the boroughs in London and different
Okay.
across the country. I don't think there's any specific methods to apply for council jobs. It's just the same method that you use for that are advised for every other application, like the essential and desirable criteria, addressing each element in those essential criteria. If they say press releases, put it as a subheading. I don't know if that's how you do it. Subheading. If they ask for cover letter or supporting statement, depending on what they are. If they say supporting statement, put it as a subheading. Give examples on when you have worked on a press release, the results it gave you, and those things. Then move on to the next essential criteria. Don't just do and touch brief on all of them without like examples to back them up if they ask for supporting statement. So there's no special way. It's still like the way I make applications for others. When they say either cover letter or supporting statement, that's the same way I do it, making sure that I address every element and giving examples as to how I meet them. So like that's the way I make the application. And then you talked about agencies. I don't even make applications to agencies. When I want to make my application, like I filter out agencies because I want to speak directly to the organizations. They are more likely to give you sponsorship than agencies. So if any job board I filter out, like applying through agent, I go through to the organizations directly. So yeah, you just have to stick around, and we can talk more around tailoring applications, but it's still the same method that you would use to make other applications your applications. I think the applications that are different is NHS application and civil service application. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm listening. Thank you.
The applications that are different is like NHS application and civil service application. Council application follows normal applications where you address the essential criteria and desirable criteria.
Okay, thank you very much. And side note, I
Mm.
emailed you at admin dot. Yeah, my name is Margaret. So please check.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Okay. Victory, have you
Yes,
responded to Victory? Okay.
yes, you have.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all. Thank you guys so much for joining the session. I hope that the session was insightful for you, and I hope that you continue making your application. It's not the easiest. Making application is not the easiest because you hope and say, oh, this is it, and then it can come back in rejection and you're frustrated. But receive the energy, receive the ginger, I would say, to continue making your application. One application can be the one that will make the difference for you, so you just need to keep going. Yeah, the group chat has been there for a very long time and it will continue to be there. So thank you guys for joining. And some of you messaged me around, sent me a DM around the mentorship. So we are no longer doing any cohorts for the year. So starting say in the new year, I'll look at my schedule and see if we can do a new cohort for the new year, depending on how my schedule is. But at the moment, I've not finalized it yet because it's usually long, it's like 12 weeks. So I've not finalized it yet. But if you want to be on standby and want to be considered for the slots that are available, feel free to DM the admin. SO community, and you get a response, and hopefully once we finalize, we'll consider you for the slots that are available. So thank you guys and have a lovely evening. Goodbye.
Let me leave. I don't know how many people is on the group again.